So we got the World Juniors happening, the men's under 18 World Juniors. Reminder again, we are recapping those games. And we're all excited about the prospects. I mean, the Vancouver Canucks and their prospects, and Matthew Coronado with the Flames, and everybody is sitting and drooling. But the IIHF decided for the second straight year to cancel the women's U18 tournament.
Kev, before you go on, are you going to go into all the tournaments that they've canceled?
Yeah, let me talk.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to start showing my diploma to you. I'm a professional speaker. They have canceled a bunch of other, basically all the events for January have been canceled. The big focus, I think, has been on the women's tournament because it is the second consecutive year. Chris Peters, an analyst, a scout, asked if if you can't do it in Sweden, move it. The IIHF has refused to do it. There's two issues on this that I think the first, I'll leave the first here for a second because we'll leave the women part here just for a second. Not because that I don't think it's important. It is, but there's a second part to this that I also think is important. And Devin kind of talked about this with the Max Major tournament. The amount of athletes in a number of sports, not only hockey, football, soccer, baseball, basketball, a bunch of amateur sports have been impacted by tournaments being canceled, postponed over these last couple of years, has been a silent, it's not victim, it's a wrong word, but they have been deeply impacted because there's a lot of players that have aged out and will never have the opportunity to play that final year. And you may not think it's a big deal, but you listen to what some of these NHL players are just talking about, how, like we talked about earlier, how Jacob Markstrom threw a stick at the net. They just want to play at the sport. And we are depriving a number of athletes through this pandemic through it. And this is not being talked enough. And how this is handled from a leadership perspective, the women is a deeper issue, but this entire situation, from a leadership and a political perspective, has been, I'm just going to use this word, time of this swear, 1 hour, 16 minutes. This is shit. It's unacceptable to me. We knew there were reports of Omicron and this COVID variant back in the middle of November. There has been time to prepare and work around some of these situations. And there has been no acknowledgement to these athletes, these coaches, the trainers, the parents, of the fact that they have worked their asses off to get to this point. And everybody is like, oh, well, COVID doesn't care about what you want to do. It's just COVID. So we can't do anything about it. Get some fucking leadership. This is not even about Jason Kenney and Doug Ford. They've been shit. I will grant you that. But leadership has been complete shit throughout this pandemic. There has been no proactivity through this at all. This has been a floundering fucking mess, and it is impacting people. And no one in a leadership position is acknowledging the fact of how many actual people allowing and trying to progress in some way, shape, or form that this is hurting. It's piss poor. It's an embarrassment. I'm
Yeah, Kev, I was really interested to see where you came from on this. And what you just said, I can agree with 110%. We talked about this, I think, was it last podcast or the podcast before, about planning for this time of year. You know that this time of year, like we saw how cases spiked in 2020, just before, in the middle of winter. The planning to have a lot of these like U20s, the World Juniors, that is a holiday tradition. You move hell and high water to make that work. But you also need to find a way to move hell and high water to make other tournaments work. and putting them in January when you know that there's a significant risk to them not being able to go because of this going on right now was poor planning. And as you said, we've been seeing this develop for a little bit, not being able to move it, or I looked up the on IIHF.com. They released their statement and talked about all the tournaments canceled. As you said, there was what looks like 3 different levels of the women's U18 and 2 different lower levels of the men's U20 tournaments were canceled. Why didn't you make this call earlier and move them back? And why are they so adamant that they can't move this to a different place and host it later on? That's my biggest issue with this. I completely understand, even though I don't necessarily, maybe not fully agree with the like saying they can't do it now, like in January, but find a way. Find a fucking way to make this work, because these are girls, these are women that have worked so hard to get there, so hard, and I love the World Juniors. I think it's an absolutely amazing tournament. We need to start treating and start treating the other tournaments that way too, including the Women's Worlds and the Women's Under 18s.